Hello, everybody. Welcome to Momversations. I love that I get to talk to my guests before we start because I'm always in a laughing mood before I go live. So then you're probably wondering, why is she laughing? Anyways, welcome. Hello. This is another episode of Momversations with Aretha Scruggs. Hello, if this is your first time, please say hello. Tell me your name. Where are you calling or logging in from, however you think of it. I am happy to just be here. It is our 1 year anniversary, ladies and gentlemen. I have been doing Momversations for 1 whole year. Can you believe it? Oh my God. Some things you start and you're like, I'm tired of doing this. I'm going to set this to the side. But it's literally been a year. And I can say that it's just been I think, such a great momversation, continual conversations with all these guests and all these moms that I've been able to interview. And I hope that you've been inspired, whether you are tuning in live with us right now, or you are listening later, or you're listening on the podcast. Whenever you're listening, I just thank you so much for being a part of this Momversation for a whole year. Hopefully you've been inspired. Hopefully whatever your dream is, whatever your thoughts or your craft or the thing that you're wrestling with along with parenting, hopefully you've learned at this point, maybe not all the way how to thrive, but at least you've been inspired to even start thinking about and struggling through and muddling through the process of what would it be like if I really took these steps to walk forward in this dream, this craft, this thing that I've always wanted to do. And hopefully these stories of all these moms and entertainment and entrepreneur today, a storyteller, hopefully you just are inspired. So welcome to Momversations. If this is your first time, you might be asking, what in the world is Momversations? Well, I say hello. My name is Aretha Scruggs, and I'm your host of Momversations. And Momversations is a conversation between moms about very lived realities of passionately loving and raising the next generation of kids, while also constantly learning what is it to live into my own purpose and the craft that I love and I've been brought here to do. Momversations is a show where we hear real life stories of incredible moms making waves in our world, from entertainers to entrepreneurs and more. Thank you so much tonight for tuning in. Please like and share this this conversation, this YouTube, or this podcast, however you're listening to it, as we learn what it is to live and thrive in motherhood and purpose. Thank you again for being here. Please again say hello in the chat. Thank you for watching. Let me tell you about our guest today. I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend, Rachael Harrington. I got a chance to live in New York for a year, and I met such wonderful creatives over there, and she was one of them. And this was I don't think either of us were mothers at the time, but now she's in number 3 and I have 1. And so I'm really excited to hear her story and to delve into her craft of storytelling. So let me tell you about Rachael Harrington. Rachael is a storyteller whose work has taken her around the globe, presenting performances and workshops in theaters and arts venues, schools, museums, community settings, and as a guest lecturer at Rutgers University. She presents workshops, stories, and talks at conferences such as the National Storytelling Summit and the American Association of School Libraries Conference, and is published in Voices, a storytelling magazine, and School Library Connection. In addition to her live performance work, she coaches individual clients and develops online storytelling products and services. Isn't that amazing? So she's going to tell us a little bit. She also has a project going on right now called the Rambling Stories Project. So we continue to tune in so you can hear about what is she doing? How did she get into storytelling? And how does she juggle that with 3 littles at home, including a 6-month-old? She just had a baby, y'all, and she's still doing it. So let's hear. I'm going to bring on my friend, Rachael Harrington. Rachael!
Hello.
Welcome to Momversations.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yes. How you doing today?
Doing good.
Yes, I know this is what I was laughing at. We've already had a slight conversation about how we're really doing and how it is to be raising kids in the quarantine and what's going on. So we'll delve into a little bit about that. But why don't you tell us, for those who know you, don't know you, who is Rachael? Where are you from? And how in the world did you get into storytelling?
Yes, so hi, I'm Rachael,
Yes.
and I am a storyteller by profession, which means that I tell stories, both folk tales and personal narrative, to all different types of audiences. So I go all over the place doing this work, and it's really fun. I love it. I grew up here in New York City and also in New Jersey. And that is actually where I met my husband. We're high school sweethearts. So yeah, I lived in New Jersey for the kind of like second half of my childhood. And then I went to Pratt out in Brooklyn. So I went to college here in the city, and we've stayed. So we're kind of, we're New Yorkers. We've been here for a long time. So yeah.
And you, high school sweethearts, this is always a thing where I think, wow, so you never know your kids, moms, if you're out there and you're like, why is she still dating this dude? That could be her future husband. Leave them alone.
Could be.
Leave them alone. But so both you grew up in, well, New Jersey, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love this space. If you guys have ever been to, because you live in the upper west side of New York, not upper west.
We actually moved to the Bronx. We're in the Bronx now.
You're in the Bronx now.
We're in the Bronx.
How has it been? So you tell us about your family. Tell us about your daughters.
Sure. So we have Zuzu, who is 6.
Yes.
We have Juniper, who is 3.
Yes.
And we have Ruben, who is 6 months old. So full house, lots of energy for sure. And it's been really interesting having 3 kids in quarantine in New York City, which is actually what prompted the move to the Bronx. We were trying to have a little bit more access to outside space.
Yes.
Especially because I was pregnant and I knew I was going to be doing postpartum in COVID times. And I just wanted to be able to open the door a little bit more easily to green space. So here we are. So 3 under the age of 6.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride, for sure. It's been so in September when school started, Zuzu's in 1st grade.
Yeah.
I'm heavily pregnant because Ruben's due in October.
Yeah.
And we decided to start Zuzu in fully remote school because we had the option here in New York to go hybrid or fully remote. We decided to go fully remote to start because Ruben was due in October. So we wanted to reduce our exposure. But we had virtual 1st grade happening. We had me starting to really get into that nesting mode of focus. And then he was born and I was taking care of the newborn, and Juniper, the 3-year-old, just got, I feel like she was just like, this is my opportunity to touch all of the things I'm not supposed to touch. Everyone is highly distracted right now. Yeah.
Those must be some stories. What's one thing she got into?
Toilet paper rolls for sure. She was like, nobody's paying attention. I'm gonna unroll all of this toilet paper.
I love it. And in the midst of all of that, though, were you doing storytelling, or did you wait a little bit after having Ruben?
That's an interesting thing, right? What does maternity leave look like when
Right.
you're a self-employed freelancer?
Exactly.
I told myself that I was going to take 3 to 4 months off and not do anything, but that didn't work.
Right.
No, it did not. And I think mostly because of my own personality.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't feel like me if I'm not, working on an idea, at least a little bit,
Yeah.
So, which is, I think, both a good thing and a bad thing,
Right. Right.
It would be nice to be able to shut off a little bit more sometimes, but yeah, I jumped into creating like an online storytelling program. I think Ruben was about 10 weeks old.
Wow.
But I wasn't like going out and doing
Exactly.
storytelling.
That makes difference. Yeah, you were just
a little bit of a
let's
difference.
turn this on. Let's figure out how to turn the mic,
Right.
turn the camera on.
Yeah.
That's
So,
pretty
but
cool.
I think that is a really interesting question. It's like, what does maternity leave look like?
Exactly. And it's real, especially for self-employed, for entrepreneurs, for women in entertainment, all these things. Yeah, I know what I think it was 10 months. No, I think Monty was a month old. She was 1 month, and I went on my first job on TV, and I was pumping out of there. Like a woman fought for me to be able to say, she needs to pump, she needs a room. I'm like, all right, thank you for that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, right. So you need those moms around in those community spaces, people who understand and know what it is. But that's so cool that but I want to go back. Tell me, how did you even, so we're talking about you're already knee deep in it with a infant, but what were the steps that you took to even build a storytelling business? How did you even do that?
That's an interesting story. So I guess I'd have to start back in my original career. I graduated with my art education degree, and my first job out of college I was an art teacher at a middle school. And for a variety of reasons, it really wasn't the right fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of issues at the school, but also my personality just didn't fit into the box of a bell schedule.
Yeah.
So Chris and I were newly married. I was, a new teacher, and without a plan at all, I quit the teaching job, and I was just like free exploring all of these options, and I was nannying on the side, and I started taking acting classes and improv classes and directing classes, and that's when my mom, who's a school librarian, she saw me kind of like gravitating towards all of these acting classes and these improv classes, and I was starting to audition and perform and stuff. And she was like, there's this whole world of people that get paid to tell stories to people. And I was like, tell me more.
Tell me more.
I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
So she invited me in to do my first storytelling gigs in her library, and it kind of slowly snowballed from there. So it's kind of hard to say how long I've been storytelling full time, really, because I was just kind of doing storytelling as I was invited places.
Yeah.
And then it got to a certain point where I was like, oh, I could actually make a go of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I started, is just kind of getting invited into this first space, and then going from there to the next, and just kind of asking people like, oh, could you let any of your friends know that might be looking for some programming in their school, or a lot of the ways that I've built up a client base is doing presentations at conferences. At conferences.
Wow.
So, I'll go lead workshops at conferences. And then from there, you build relationships with people who've attended.
Wow.
And I just try to stay in touch with people and let them know what I'm working on, how I might be able to be of service to their school or their organization, or how I could help them with storytelling coaching. So I think it's been a lot. It's been a very slow build. I haven't had a lot of like instant anything.
Right.
So it's just like a lot of slow building, a lot of keeping in touch with people, letting people know what's going on, and just like waiting and trusting that conversation and keeping a relationship going with someone will eventually lead to like that right fit of where I can be of service to them. So,
I mean, that brings up some questions. It's very cool that well, two questions, but let me go with the first. I really think that that's the entrepreneurial way. Like you really first of all, to build anything outside of an organization that's already set, it's a slow build. In this here generation, we think, oh, well, let me just put this video up and ba-da.
Yeah, here I am.
But the real world of entrepreneurial self-employment is, oh, let's test these waters. Oh, well, wait a minute. Oh, there's something opening. Let's keep going. And so can you tell me, and for people who are watching or listening who are, have an idea and think that it's going to, they do it for a month and, oh, well, I don't have any success yet. Let me give up this thing. What is it that keeps you trying? What is it, even especially in that space? I know the world of acting and entertainment where it's like you're constantly auditioning and then your mom sort of directed you to another path. Like, how was that? How did you deal with the stick-to-itiveness? Really, what kept you going to even say, well, I'm going to keep going down this path?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think part of it, honestly, I mean, I love what I do. I think the initial big push was actually very practical because I was still trying to have this balance between acting, directing career and some storytelling side hustle. And then I had Zuzu, and, I was going down to direct these theater projects, which were amazing. And I loved it so much, but it wasn't fitting in with being a mom of a baby. And I wasn't at the point where I was getting paid enough to even cover babysitting.
Right. That's real.
So that's like a real practical thing of like, oh, I'm getting paid a nice, people will cut me a nice check to tell them stories, and I can pay for my babysitting. I can bring a little bit home. I can help, pay for the groceries, whatever, all of the life things.
Yeah.
And I can be home for bedtime. And so, I think that was a very practical decision maker, was just how everything was fitting together with motherhood, and our financial life and everything like that. So I think there's, an element of looking at what your life needs practically. But I think in terms of the kind of, I don't know, inner guts grit that you need to keep going, for me, I think there's two things. I think one thing that keeps me going is the idea of curiosity.
Ooh.
And, always trying to think of like, what's this thing that I'm interested in learning more about? Because I think when you're curious about something, you want to find out more about it. And then you get to like sit and simmer in all of those ideas. And when you're sitting and simmering in all of these kind of researchy type ideas, inevitably, I feel like you have this idea of like, oh, here's my spin on all of these things I've been thinking about. And now I'm going to make this idea happen. I'm going to put feet to it.
Yeah.
So, being curious, what are the questions you have about what you're doing, and like kind of letting that guide you. But I think the other thing has also been like trying to see what I do as being a part of a bigger picture. And that definitely helps keep me motivated because it's really easy to like get in your own head and start evaluating yourself on stats and how well you're doing and all of these kind of like more numbery kind of ways. But when you can look at what you're doing and think of like how what you do solves a problem for somebody else or can like help somebody else, I think I don't know, that keeps you, or at least for me, it keeps me motivated to keep going, to keep looking for ways to connect with other people in those ways.
Those are some good nuggets right there. Because I'm a doer, and maybe you're the same. Like, I get an idea, let's do it.
Let's go.
The sort of like things that you think about later of, oh, this is actually solving a problem, or like, oh, this is actually doing something good for me and somebody else. Like, it's pretty cool to even think about that. But I love what you said about curiosity, like that need to be curious. I interviewed 2 interviews ago, was of a woman one of my friends who's created a natural hair care brand. And same thing, was she like, her curiosity, I love that word, her curiosity kind of pushed her to research. It's an oversaturated market, but her research helped her to find her niche, her path. And I love that. I think that is key even for us, but even as I think about raising my daughter, I, want to think about how can I be a part of her finding her specific path. There's so many, not that there's a whole, a lot of singers, a lot of storytellers, what is your path? And I mean, that would be my second question. I think people always talk about in these interviews how their mothers were key to kind of nudging them on a path, or nudging them at least sort of in the direction that the path that they're on was because of their mother. Can you talk a little bit more about your own mom's kind of experience, and then how it influenced you, and then how do you see yourself? Have you already thought about how you might do the same in your daughter's and even now your son's life?
Yeah. So I think, my mom, I mean, she was the one who even told me that storytelling was a thing.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very specific way that she kind of has shaped this path that I'm walking on. But I think, growing up, my mom was always reading to us, first of all. So stories were just, my childhood was saturated in stories, and she was a very expressive reader. She did all the voices and all the faces, and and you could feel how into the story she was. And so I think that was definitely has been a backbone for me, is this like history since childhood of just being in the, like, fully in the story, you know?
Yeah.
And I think she was also very playful growing up, and she would get like really involved in setting up these spaces for us, for me and my sister to play in. Like, for example, when we were growing, we were spent part of my childhood on Staten Island. And so we had, you know, this little backyard, and it was a street that was just full of kids, like just kids everywhere on this street. And we would all go out and play with each other after school. And we would, you know, run the block. And my mom would do things like create the set of the Three Little Pigs out of old boxes. And she used the little, you know, the little plastic backyard slide. She would like, she set that up as the chimney so that the wolf could like go down the chimney, but really the kid's going down on the slide, you know? So she was very playful, and I think not even necessarily, I mean, she wanted us to be in the play world, but I think she herself wanted to be fully immersed in a world of play.
Wow.
And so that enthusiasm transferred itself, I think. And so now I feel like as a storyteller, that's a huge part of what I do, and what I want people to take away from their time with me as a storyteller is play. And for grownups to recognize in themselves the ability to play, or to be able to like go to a storytelling performance and the next day see some birds pecking at the bread in the park, and all of a sudden they're thinking of the conversation that is going on between the birds, and it's because they're playing, you know, like,
wow.
So, and I think that's what I wish for my kids, is that they don't stop playing at childhood, that they continue to be curious, that they continue to play for their whole lives.
Wow. I mean, you're bringing up, this is why I do these conversations, because every conversation is completely different. I'm in a parenting class, and they talked about the importance of play. How play, the opposite of play is not rest, but it's anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was so mind blowing the first time I heard it. I was like, oh my God, like not only for our children, but for us. Like we stop playing. We stop playing as adults, and we go, no, that's adult time. You know, now I'm an adult. You know, I can't play anymore.
Right.
But can you help us, help my audience? What does play look like? How do you, especially in this, not only in this generation where everything is about screens, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is television, tablet, whatever. So there are no kids playing outside, at least in California. There are no kids playing outside. So how do you keep your kids playful, curious? What does that look like in your household? And what does that look like for you? How do you keep yourself playful, and especially as a parent, or you're just like, somewhere. But I know that play is so important for our children, but definitely for us also.
Yeah, definitely for both, for sure. And I think that when grownups are playful, it creates this really special, sweet bond between the child and the grown-up. So yeah, it's really special when you can allow yourself to like let down those guards to just be playful.
Yeah.
I I think one thing that I try to do, and I don't do it. I mean, I want to do it more.
That's being a mom.
You know, you've got these visions.
Like, oh, this is gonna work out great.
And then you need to make a sandwich for lunch, you know? But I think it can be as simple as just leaving something interesting, like an interesting object in an interesting place, and just putting it there and seeing what happens. Like sometimes I'll take the girls as little figurine dolls when they're not around, and I'll just like set them on the top of their bookshelf, like in a little situation, so that they can come home and like see these dolls that look like they're having a pizza party or something. I don't know, whatever it is. And then just kind of like let it be open-ended and just kind of see where they go with that. So it can be, it can be very, very simple, I think. And also just like open-ended questions are always really good. Because then there's room for adventure and options. And I think improv classes have been instrumental in helping me think about how to see the world playfully. Because, the whole basis of improv is saying yes, and you say yes, and then you add your thing. And I still remember the feeling of being in my first improv class and being like, I've said no a lot in my life.
Ooh.
Like I'm realizing now I've done a lot of saying no, and what would my life look like if I said yes more often? So yeah, open-ended questions, like leaving little things, and just being willing to like go along with the girls' crazy ideas of playing, and
I love it. I know, even when I was at your house, pre-Imani, and then when I had Imani, you guys have such a fun, playful house in general. It just, you walk in and it feels like it's just so much joy. And so I love that idea of intentionally, we try to do all kind of intentional things as parents, and then your mind goes, oh, wait, what? What? Oh, I got to play that bell. Wait, what happened?
Right.
And you completely forget. But I love when, intentionality meets like your ideas. And I mean, I can say that the few times I've been at your house, I'm just like, this is such a fun place. What is just a lot of laughing, and just, it feels so much joy and light in there. So I love the idea of that, of play. And how do you do that for yourself?
With
a newborn.
Yeah, with a newborn. I was just thinking, like, I'm in a phase in my life right now where it can feel really hard to play.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like like I was saying before, I just feel like I'm really in the thick of it right now.
Yes.
I think one thing that I've actually really come to understand about myself in this past year, and especially like this last 6 months, is my need for movement. And I think that's one way that I play.
Yeah.
When I'm outside and I'm moving my body, my mind can just kind of go and think in this, like the realm of imagination.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the movement, but something about just like going on a long walk with some good music, or even no music, and just listening to the sounds around me. Yeah. It just kind of frees my mind up to be in that playful zone, I think. So yeah, for me, I think being outside and being moving feels very playful.
Yes. I remember living in New York. That's what I was just talking to somebody about that. I used to just, I didn't have anything to do. I would walk outside and just go walking for hours. And it's
Yeah.
just such an amazing place. You just look up, oh, where is this? Like you land in some neighborhood you've never been in, even though you might have lived there for a year.
Forever.
What is this place?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Woo.
And
yeah,
it's hard.
there's always something new to look at.
Yes. But I love, that's a great thing to even, I mean, California, we don't walk. you have to, you have to purposefully go outside. I mean, New York is sort of set up to be a walking city, but this is not a walking city. But even, I mean, just a few days ago, I just went and walked outside with no music and just an evening stroll. And it's like, oh, you see things from another perspective. You see flowers, you hear birds at night, you hear, different things that you don't pay any attention to either during the day or just because you're in the house all day. So yeah, I love that. Being able to move is how we stay playful and young and spry. Yes.
Yes, you gotta keep that mobility.
Yes. Shoot. You just right. Well, that would go with my question of what does self-care look like for you in this season? And if even before, what does self-care look like for you?
I probably have to say again, moving outside.
Yeah.
The idea of a nice relaxing bath or something like, along those lines seems like the right answer to that question. But I think for me, it's just being outside, moving, being with other people outside, I think is something that feels very much like self-care for me. Like, I've been really enjoying going to the playground after school, and just being outside, and, there's the other parents are there that are there after school, and the kids are off somewhere in the park. So they're somewhere, and the I get to sit and talk with people and feel the sunshine and feel the breeze. And I don't know, just being outside, I think, is really important for me for self-care. I'm a morning person. So getting my morning routine in is really important for me on days where I sleep in a little too much, and then everybody else is up, or when everybody else gets up earlier than I can wake up early.
Yes.
It's a lot harder for me to start the day in a happier mood.
Yes.
So I really like that. I like that morning quiet space that I can just have my coffee. I do my devotions. I stretch. I just have a minute.
Yes. What time you wake up? You got 3 different ages.
Well, that's part of the problem right now.
I
That is
imagine.
part of the problem.
Like, what are you doing awake? Go back to sleep. This is my time. My time.
Yeah, exactly. Ruben is currently waking up at midnight.
Okay.
And not always going back to sleep until 5-6 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh yeah. You in the thick of it.
The thick of it.
Yes. Wow. I understand, but I love that. Yes, waking up early and moving is key.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
What do you think is your why or your purpose? Do you have a specific mantra or anything that you live by, either with raising the kids or your family, or even with storytelling?
I think I send Zuzu off to school every morning by telling her, be curious.
I love that.
So I think it goes back to that idea of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because, going to school, the academics, it's important, it's great, but But if you don't have curiosity in there, it's just facts and reciting things. You know, it's the curiosity is what's going to open the world up for her and for Juniper and for Ruben. So, you know, letting my kids know every day, like, it's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. And in that, it's okay to make mistakes as you're trying to figure things out. So I just want them to have that in them, that being curious can kind of open their eyes up to this big, beautiful world.
Yeah.
And I think with my storytelling, I have the phrase joy through story. That's kind of my, what is that called? A tagline or whatever.
Yes.
And that's kind of my mission in 3 words with my storytelling is joy through story. Because storytelling is really all about connecting on a really personal level with your listeners or with the audience. So I don't know. That's what I hope for with my storytelling, is that it's a moment of joy between me and the listeners, but that experience of that joy that was felt in the storytelling experience is then carried out of that momentary experience out into the rest of their lives. So, joy through story, I think. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, you were talking about, and even again, going back to that entrepreneurial mindset of your why and what problem are you solving? And you, especially during this time, are a joy plug. You're a joy plug. If nothing else, a joy plug, whether you can feel it back or not. I know it must be hard doing it online and you don't have that same ability to connect with humanity. But you're that joy plug in the midst of what has been a very difficult season for everyone, but especially children. So I think that's amazing that you have that ability to be able to do that. Would you excuse me, everyone, that's my Imani. But would you say that is, even for moms who are listening, who, are in that difficult...
What's your password?
Leave it alone. For those moms who are in that difficult place of, they're in the thick of it. They're either raising a newborn or they're in the thick of raising a teenager, or they're in the thick, the different stages are in the thick of it, depending upon teething, or they're in the thick of whatever, about to start school or sending your kid to college. Like, would you say having that why, even for your family, but also for your storytelling, does that help in the midst of your own being in the thick of raising a newborn and 3 different ages at this time? How can you talk a little bit about having a why and maybe an intention and a focus helps with the difficulties of the reality of being a mom sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, having a why is just, it's what kind of grounds you through those days where, you've been up all night and now it's time to get everybody ready for school, and you've got a deadline or emails to answer, and it can feel, those are the days that feel really hard to keep going as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Sorry, my batteries.
I've had to do that. Let's plug it in.
Plug it in. So like having that why driving what you do, for me, gets me through those days that are really difficult.
Yes.
just even energy wise, like I literally am running on no sleep.
Yep.
Why am I doing this?
Yes.
Oh, I'm doing it because I have this bigger belief in what I'm doing, and I think, that kind of ties into my faith too, is for me, joy is an expression of my faith.
Yeah.
And because to me, joy is something that permeates through difficult things. And so when I have that as my why, it's connecting me to that bigger purpose of why am I putting myself through this crazy entrepreneurial life? I'm not putting myself through it for myself, really. Like, I love what I do. I find great meaning from what I do. See, this is the like no sleep kicking in.
It's okay.
What are words? But I'm not solely doing this for me. I'm doing this because it's part of this bigger picture that I'm a part of.
I love it. And that would be, I always ask that, how does your faith influence your craft or what you're doing? And so would you say your bigger picture is your faith journey or something else that also, what's that bigger picture?
Yeah, no, that's the bigger picture is my faith journey.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it's been really cool to kind of sit with this idea of God as the author.
Yeah.
And God, cool. I mean, he's the storyteller. And so like, that's kind of, I don't know if informs is the right word, but to just be able to see what I do as something that I love, but something that is part of this bigger story.
Yeah.
That I get to be a part of. So yeah.
That's cool.
Did I lose the question a little bit there? I feel like I might have lost the question a little bit there.
I love that idea though of God as literally the author, and then you're a storyteller and you're joining. I mean, it goes with the larger question of what is your why and your purpose, and does it help to influence what you do as a storyteller? And yes, you answered the question. Yeah. I love that idea of God as the author, and you're joining him in his unveiling story. The story that's already been told, but it's still unveiling, and you're a part of the story.
Yeah.
You're part of the story, and you're help telling the story. That's pretty awesome.
And I think well, okay. I got it. I think another kind of why that drives me a little bit is, so there's the idea of curiosity and play, but the idea of imagination.
Yes.
And a lot of what I do is I help people develop their imaginations, which we need for like imagining, I don't know, what heaven is going to be like.
Wow.
Like, or to just be able to be like, to see, I don't know, like, what am I trying to say? I think that storytelling can help people see, like the delight that's in the world. And as people see that, they can see glimpses of God in their everyday life,
Oh,
like to be able to stop and see something that like kind of it makes you take a second look, and then you look at it closer and you see the design of this thing, or you're able to notice the intricate details or the colors or whatever it is. I think those little moments are little, like, I don't know, it's like God being playful, right? And
wow.
yeah, I think
I love that. I love that lens to look through your faith, through how you see God, through the lens of play and creativity and and even new curiosity, even going back to what you talked about before of being curious. What if we started every day being curious about, oh God, what surprise will I see in your creation today? Whether it's nature, whether it's in people, whether it's whatever, in colors. I mean, what if we started every day like that? That would be fabulous. And then again, that would be kind of going back to what you are, is joining God in that story of this story that's already told, but constantly unveiling of his creation and what he's doing currently in the world. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome, Rachael. And I love, my mom says, joy is rare in our society. Thank you for promoting joy. So that you're a joy promoter. Someone asked you, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a joy promoter. I'm a joy promoter. I promote joy through the storytelling. That's a perfect ta-da. I love that. And what an inspiration to inspire your kids to constantly be, all we can be is who we are in that moment. But then being able to see who you are, I think it goes back to that importance of having that why, because, as we live into it and we understand it and try to at least live intentionally into that, our kids will be able to see that and go, well, my mom might have had her foibles, but I know she
for sure
she tried to be a joy promoter. She tried to be a part of it.
I honestly think, like, I hope there's a few good things that
right. That's what you hope.
That I'm passing on to my kids.
Do you remember some good things?
Some good things. But I hope that one of the things that I try to do intentionally is to point, like, if I find myself inspired by something, or if I find something interesting, I try to intentionally share that with them and just take a moment to pause in that reflection on that thing. So, like, if there's an interesting cloud in the sky, to just like take a moment and stop and be like, oh, look at that cloud up there. Isn't God so creative? Like, look at how creative he is. And like, what do you think that cloud looks like? Where do you think that cloud is going? So just like taking those little moments to, I don't know, step outside of the everyday, like, task, go, 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 go. And to just kind of like revel in the creativity that comprises this world.
I love that. I love that. Man, moms, parents, whoever's watching, that goes with, that joins our faith, but also, like, wow, seeing the beauty in every day, like the surprise of, you never know what's around the corner. You never know what's happening tomorrow. And it kind of, that's sort of even a thing to, okay, get me out of bed today. What's going to happen today? It's kind of an adventure. Who knows?
Well, yeah, especially when you're a parent, like, every day is different.
Every day.
Every day. And I feel like the more you plan for something, the more chances there are that it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But also with entrepreneurial life, like
Yes.
you can plan and plan and plan, and it's good to plan. But you just always have to be a little bit flexible too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially as an entrepreneurial parent.
Yep.
Nothing, if that ain't the key word, flexibility, friends.
Ooh. Ooh. Yes.
Flexibility, friends. My mom also says, thanks for encouraging us to take a moment to see God and his beautiful creations. Yes, we never know what is around the corner, or just walking outside and you just take a moment to listen. I love that. Go up. So that's your homework for those who are listening right now, later, or on the podcast. Your homework from this conversation, this conversation, is to go outside, leave your headphones, leave your phone at home, and just walk around the block, and just have your ears open and your ears and eyes. What do you see? What do you hear? And let God speak to you through that. Let him speak through creation. I love that. And Amber says, this is so good. Thanks for your words. Yes, you're saying some great stuff about parenting, but also just about life, how to still remain playful, how to still be excited about waking up. Well, we have just a few more questions. What is the greatest lesson you're learning in this season?
I think, again, it's a really intense season right now. I feel like one thing that I'm learning right now is how to wait with expectation, like wait expectantly. I think as an entrepreneur, my tendency is to try to, create this path and ensure that my next step is laid out, and like, I'm going to hustle, and I'm going to make all of these things happen. But I feel like God's really been kind of tapping me on the shoulder and asking me to just wait expectantly that his next step for me is the next step to take. And so, my natural self doesn't wait very well.
I get it.
But I feel like in many different ways, in my parenting, in my career, in our living situation, where are we going to be living next? I think the lesson in this season is wait expectantly, because God's timing is perfect. And and just this idea of what he has for me is so much more than I could dream up on my own, and that I don't have to sweat it, because it's already, he already has it for me. So I just have to wait expectantly.
Yes. Timing is everything. Timing in faith, timing in the world of entrepreneur and building something. Timing is everything. You look back and go, man, what was the timing of that? Even your mom telling you about it, and it just, the timing of things is just everything, but we hate to wait for it.
Oh yeah.
To wait for it. It's that waiting.
But in entrepreneurial life, I think that's one of the gifts of entrepreneurial life, is to be able to look back on this slow burn. We were talking about slow burn before. To be able to look back and be like, that one little conversation that I had with someone, 4 years ago
Right.
is now like opening up into this opportunity that I wouldn't have even ever thought would be coming my way, you know? So it's, I think that's really interesting.
Woo! And that's why I tell my students, you never know who you met. You can't be a jerk. You just can't be a jerk in rooms. Because you never know, you being crazy in one space, that person comes back 4 years later and they're like, oh, well, hey, I saw you. Remember I met you back here? And it completely transformed your career. So you never know. You never know who you're meeting, timing, everything just comes together.
Right.
I love that. Well, we're coming to our last. I don't want to keep you. I know you're probably tired, but because we on Eastern time, sun is still on our side. I know it's 9 o'clock over there. What time is it?
I don't know what time is anymore. Time is fuzzy.
What is time?
What is time?
Yes. Oh, and Devon says, trust the process. God is always in control. Yes, Devon. Yes. Trust the process. It's a process. Ain't nothing happening in our even though we wanted to, our microwave time. It just that's nobody's real life. That ain't nobody's real life. Nothing happens. You do one thing and it just blows up. Nope, it's the process.
Yeah.
Well, these last few questions I usually ask. If you met one of your children later in life, say they're in their 30s and 40s, what would you want them to know about you and your journey?
I think I would want them to know that it hasn't always been easy. There's been a lot of low days, low seasons. I think it's easy to look back on things and kind of be in this place of nostalgia or to just look back and only look for the good things. But I want them to know about the valleys. And that's where I think this idea of joy comes in, is that for me, joy is not momentary. It's something that sustains you through the valleys. It's with you on the mountaintops, but it's also with you in the valleys. And so I think that's what I would want them to know, is that even though, on the outside, it could seem happy or whatever, that like there was valleys, but that it was sustained in joy.
Yes. There are valleys, honeys. There are mountains, but there are sure valleys. You got to see the joy in all of it.
And the joy, and there was a song lyric, I forget from who, maybe Jonathan Ogden, to just think about the flowers that grow in the valleys. I don't know. Ooh. Right? There's valley flowers. So there's flowers in the valley.
Yes, I love that. Well, it has been a wonderful journey to hear your story, Rachael Harrington. You've said some great, if nothing else, the need for curiosity, to be curious, not only intentionally inciting that in your children, but also in yourself. How can you still be curious about life? But then how are you using your why as an entrepreneur, as whatever you do? How is your why allowing you to be a part of the larger picture of the problem that either needs to be solved, or whatever question you're answering, whatever business or service or even whatever job you do? How does what you do answer the question of maybe some of the solutions and the problems that we have in our world? How can that be a part of impacting the world? But also, how are you a part of the bigger picture of what God is doing, or what is the bigger picture of just how you see yourself as part of making the world a better place? I love, these are some great nuggets, great nuggets. And then even just being a part of seeing joy. Rachael Harrington is a joy dealer, ladies and gentlemen. She really is a part of just bringing joy. And I just thank you from all the moms who I know your stories have impacted and will impact. Thank you on behalf of all the moms, and even for sharing your story of how you grow your flowers in the midst of the valleys. It's amazing, and it's just a beautiful story that you've shared. So I thank you. The final question I always ask my guests is, Rachael Harrington, who are you becoming?
Ooh, who am I becoming? I am becoming, I'm becoming patient, more patient. I think I'm becoming a more patient version of myself. Yeah, more patient version of myself.
I love it. I love it. More patience. That's
Yeah.
what we need in the world.
Yeah.
In the world and in our families. Well, again, thank you again for sharing your story. Is there a final thought you want to leave my audience with?
Well, first of all, I wanted to just say thank you for having me here.
Yay!
This was really, really lovely and wonderful.
Yay!
And it was so good to chat with you
Yes.
again. So thank you. And thanks for doing this, for creating this podcast. I listened to it while nursing Ruben in his infancy. Was perfect. I could just pop it in and nurse him. And in a time of isolation from other moms, it was good to hear the voices of moms keeping me company. So thank you.
Hey, you helped me with my why. Thank
you.
Yay! Yes, inspiring moms, no matter where you're at. Hopefully these stories inspire you. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess
how would you want to inspire a mom who might be in your same place listening, whether they listen a year from now? That podcast is going to be there and they're going to go, who's this Rachael Harrington? So what would be your final thought you want to leave with that mom who is in your same place?
I would say the same thing that I say to Zuzu every morning when she walks out the door for school. I would say, be curious.
I love it. I love it. Be curious.
Be curious. Be playful. Yeah.
I love that. Be curious, ladies and gentlemen. And I forgot to be curious. Pause. And then why don't you tell us, she has, before you all go, tell us about your Rambling Stories project.
Yes.
Or you can, well, first you see her website right below, RachelHarrington.com. You can go and follow Rachael, but tell us about what you have going on right now.
Sure. So I just released my latest online digital storytelling product. It's called the Rambling Stories Project. And the Rambling Stories Project was born in the time of quarantine. And I wanted to help people get outside, and I wanted to help people tap into their creativity if they needed a little shakeup. So the idea of a rambling story is you put half of a traditional folktale into your ears. You walk to a natural element that can be found in the story. So the story might involve a tree. You go find an interesting tree. You listen to this half of a folktale, and then you finish the story with your own original ending. And included in the Rambling Stories package is a whole bunch of inspiration pages that can help you get started with some ideas for how to end the story, and how you could tell your story. And then, of course, the full version of the story, the traditional full version of the story, is also available. So yeah, it's a way to get outside. It's a way to move. It's a way to observe deeply your outside environment. And it's a way to get creative and tell stories.
I love it. So you're leading people through this project. Is that what it is?
So it's a digital bundle. So you download the story. So you'll hear my voice.
Okay.
And then you're kind of self-guiding yourself on this nature walk. So
I love it. So
yeah.
is it at your website or how can they be a
Yep.
part of the project?
Yep. You can go to my website and you can, right now I have 2 packages available. One is for tree and one is for grass. So depending on which nature walk you want to take, you purchase either tree or grass, and then you listen to stories and you have fun.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, go out there and be curious and playful with the Rambling Stories Project with Rachael Harrington. You can find out more at the website that's scrolling across your screen. And I just want to say that again. What was it? It's the thought of play. So I don't know who wrote this, but there's a thought out there that play, the opposite of play is not rest, but it's anxiety or depression. So why don't you go out? I love it that you send your children out there, but we leave you with that thought even. Why don't you go out and be curious and be playful, as she tells Zuzu. Why don't you go out there? We'll leave you with that final thought. Go out, be curious and be playful. Be a part of Rambling Stories Project with Rachael Harrington, and just follow her on Instagram. Is it the same Rachael Harrington on Instagram?
On Instagram, my Instagram handle is at Rachael_stories.
Rachael_stories.
Yes.
And you can follow her and see what else she puts out there and how you can continue to be curious and playful. Yay! Yay! Thank you again, Rachael, for being a part. I so enjoyed this conversation, and I'm going to go figure out how to get my daughter to be curious and playful. She'd be like, Mommy, leave me out. I love it. Thank you again, Rachael. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week next week we're off. And next week we're off with Momversations. We'll be back with the first week in June. Can you believe May is over? Yes, so we do Momversations first, second, and third Wednesdays, and then we take the final Wednesday off. But we'll be back again with the first Wednesday in June. So we'll see you back then with another incredible mom making waves in our world and impacting not only the next generation, but our world. So hopefully you're inspired. Hopefully wherever you are, whether you're listening later, listening now, listening to the podcast, hopefully you're inspired to go out and thrive in motherhood and purpose. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.